Hi guys, welcome back. This is episode number 43 of Matt Chat, covering one of the best two-player games of all time, Freefall Associates Archon, the Light and the Dark. Now, Archon is one of those games. It seems to be a perennial favorite. It shows up on a lot of best of lists, and it's very popular among any of the crowd who grew up with an 8-bit computer in the house, such as the Atari 400, 800, or maybe a Commodore 64, where I first played it. It's a wonderful game for two players. You can play it with one player, but it's a lot more fun with a partner. And it's loosely based on the idea of chess. But with, instead of a lot of strategic battles, you actually get to battle it out in a shooter-style action sequence. It's a lot of fun. There's quite an in-depth strategy to the game, though. I didn't realize a lot of it when I was a kid. I just thought it was about blasting the other guy. But really, there's a lot to the timing and the moves and pitting certain opponents against other opponents. Quite a bit of strategic thinking went into this game, and I'll try to share that with you as we go along. Now, it was designed by John Freeman and Paul Reich III, and programmed by John's wife, Ann Westfall, who is, of course, very talented. Some of this team would go on later to create Star Control, which we covered in the earlier episode. Now, like Mule, Archon is historically significant because it was one of the first games published by Electronic Arts, who of course has become the monster game publisher of today. But when it was first getting started in the early 80s, it was very unique and a very different mindset. Whereas companies like Atari tried to keep their programmers in the cupboard, tried to keep them virtually anonymous so they wouldn't be snatched away by the competition, Electronic Arts and its founder Trip Hawkins had a different mindset. They wanted to basically make rock stars out of their developers and programmers and such. And they also wanted to raise the bar on game quality, get the public to start taking games more seriously. And one of the more interesting ways they did this was to make very nice boxes. So these Electronic Arts boxes looked like albums, like record albums. That's what they call sometimes the album packaging, or the game albums, however you want to word it. But they're very well designed, very eye-catching, and of course this makes them very collectible today. These look great then, and of course now. All right, then, there's a lot to this game. So without further ado, let's play Archon. I thought I would start us off, of course, with the original Atari 8-bit version. And as you can see, the game begins by parading out all of your various troops from both sides. All of these creatures are based on, of course, mythical archetypes like unicorns and phoenixes and banshees, and they each have abilities, strengths and weaknesses, different kinds of attacks, different attack speeds, and so on, that you need to think about as you move your troops around. Some combinations pit one of the opponents at a severe disadvantage, and of course vice versa. Now, there's basically two ways to win this game. You can either defeat all of the enemy's creatures, or you can seize all of these red power squares. You see those little red dots flashing there. And of course, that's the quickest victory, but also often the most difficult. Now, when you move on to a square that already has a creature there, occupied by the other side, you enter that arcade sequence. And it's very fast-paced, very intense. A lot of this, boils down to how quickly you can react on the joystick. But of course, it also makes a difference. You can take advantage of the terrain, try to hide behind those objects. The timing is very important. These creatures have the speeds of their bullets, their attacks. Also, you can only attack every so often. If you listen carefully, you'll hear a little ding. That's when the attack is ready to be fired again. So a lot of the combat boils down to very good timing as well as maneuvering. So moving on then, let's look at the Commodore 64 version, which I think has better graphics, although some people don't like those black outlines around the characters. Now moving some archers into position, the light gets to move first, which is a pretty good advantage, but it also has a disadvantage. You'll notice those some of the squares are changing color every turn. That's, I guess, part of where the title, The Light in the Dark, comes from. If the squares are darker, that gives the dark side a bigger advantage to get more health. Notice how my health on the left, that yellow bar, was a lot shorter than the Manticore's, the blue guy. So that's something to think about. Where you move, at what stage of the game is the square dark? You see now they've gone to black, so it's the dark side has a big advantage. Now something else that's pretty cool about this game, besides all the different creatures with their different abilities, is that you have two characters here, a wizard and a sorceress, who can cast spells. The spells can do things like teleport a creature to a different location. You can imprison one temporarily. You can heal your character. Shift time, I believe that changes the stage of the coloration. You can also summon these elementals, which is more or less a free attack. These guys you can't conquer a square with these guys, but you can destroy an enemy, or at least weaken one, so that one of your other creatures can go in and battle. Now there are 4 different types of elementals. This is the earth elemental. There's also, of course, fire and air and water. Apparently the fire one is the best, although it's completely random which one you come out with. The earth elemental has he's very slow moving, and usually the slower moving creatures like the golems and the trolls have a powerful attack. And it's just a matter of trying to land it, especially if your opponent has a quick moving creature. Here we have a wizard and dragon fight. The dragon is a very hard hitting creature, but the wizard also packs quite a punch. So you can see I was able to take the dragon out with just one hit. I thought I would also show you a version I didn't know about until I was researching for this video, a Nintendo version that was published in 1989 by Activision. And of course, the graphics are improved, and it's quite fun playing with the Nintendo controllers. This is probably the version that I would seek out if you have a Nintendo, of course, or if you're not very familiar with the early versions we talked about. It seems to be quite well designed. It has music, as you can hear, that plays throughout the game. Now, of course, there have been many attempts to remake Archon for modern consoles. This is a version called Archon Ultra. Now, this was published in 1994 by SSI, exclusively for DOS. And as you can see, they have changed the layout here. This is, to me, looks a lot like the game Battle Chess, if you're familiar with that one. It seems like some nice additions were made. Now you have a secondary, each character has a secondary attack, and the battles are a little more complex. There's more obstacles on the battlefields and so on. It might be a little too complex, or people complained about all sorts of other things they didn't like about this game. Maybe it was just poorly marketed, but for whatever reason, this game just didn't take off the way that Freefall Associates hoped it would. Now, if for whatever reason you're bored with the original Archon, you should probably check out this game, Adept, which came out a year after the original. Shown here is the Commodore 64 version. And as you can see, they've gotten rid of the chess motif. It's similar in many ways and different in other ways. For instance, you'll notice those different kinds of tiles on the water and the fire. That will affect the battlegrounds. The obstacles there will have different effects. There's also an emphasis here on summoning things to fight for you. These robed people here are here adepts. Now, I'll admit this is not a game that appealed to me very much. I am partial to the original myself, but I do know many people who claim this game is superior. So try them both out, see which one you like. And that's all for this week's Matt Chat. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I thought I would leave you with a thought from Goethe. Daring ideas are like chessmen moving forward. They may be beaten, but they may start a winning game. See you guys next week.